Okay, today is our lesson on literary conventions, or another term is literary devices. Okay, so literary conventions or literary devices. And the role of these literary devices, like authors use flashback, point of view, rising action, things like that. Why do they do that? They do that in order to create the story and to get their purpose and meaning across. And so they're techniques that writers use in order to do that. As we look at how to read literature and how to analyze literature and even write about literature, we will become familiar with many of the literary terms, some that are not even on this particular form, of which I'm going to upload for you. Under our resources tabs, I think, is where I'll let you know on our announcements. But anyway, I want to go over this with you, a few that we've already started with my other class face-to-face. I want to make sure those of you that are coming to me on Tuesday, that again, you bring a composition notebook with you and a pack of multicolored highlighters, all different colors, okay? And a red pen. And those of you that are going to remain online, I want you to be able to access these videos so you understand what you need to be doing as well. And then you'll be sending me screenshots. Okay, so let's talk about some of these literary devices. We have three structures here, okay? We have prose. Prose is a fancy word for the written word in a novel. And you have foreshadowing, and you have plot, subplot. It's broken down as a chapter, and that's under form and structure. And of course, some of these things can also go over into our drama section, which are plays, form and structure. You have the climax, the falling action, you have plot, you have story, you have setting. Okay, setting is a big one that we're going to spend some time on. That's under the drama, but you can have setting in a novel, obviously. You can have actually even a setting in poetry, okay? So many of these are interchangeable. Some are not, especially when we get to the poetry part, but we're not going to mess with that right now. Okay, so what we're looking at now, we can look at, let me get my yellow one, hold on. Can't find it. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right, foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, which you probably already know this, but I'm just going to go over it with you again, is when an author gives us some information that foreshadows or predicts in our minds of what's going to happen. For example, like when we watch a scary movie and all of a sudden it starts raining and thundering, and then we have, you know, the branches scraping on the window. We can foreshadow that something terrible is going to happen, right? Well, it's the same way that authors use words in order to convey happiness or sorrow, an accident that's going to come, or maybe even a kiss between the protagonist and someone else, right? Something like that. So that's foreshadowing, okay? We're going to talk about that in the book, Call of the Wild. We're also going to look at the idea of point of view, which I already have highlighted here. Point of view is merely what it says. It is your point of view, how you feel about something. And as we look at this novel, it's written by Jack London, we're going to think about what is his point of view as it is written through both the narrator and what we can think of with Buck, the dog. Okay, we have first and third person, and we have omniscient. So the difference here, the third person is a point of view in which the narrator, or the feelings of the character, is limited. It relates to their own thoughts and feelings. The omniscient, can't even say that today, is where the narrator knows all things, okay? All things about what's going on, okay? Now, moving down, we're going to talk about, as we go through, the characters in this book. And as you see, we have the protagonist, we have an antagonist, maybe some minor characters. This book is about a dog, Buck, who is taken from his home in California, and he is dragged up to the Canadian a border area where during the turn of the century, men were wanting to get very rich because of the gold that they have found. Okay, so we're going to talk about that. And remember earlier I just mentioned on our conversation at 1:30 that literature, good literature, has lessons for us to learn. And we learn those lessons through the choices of the characters. We can learn lessons from not only the human perspective, but in this book there's many dogs and Buck leading the clan. We can learn major life lessons in our own where we can apply them. And whenever we learn lessons about other people and apply them to ourselves, it's about how people make choices, decisions. Okay, and we can see sometimes, look at your own life. You may have a sibling or someone in your circle of friends who is making great decisions and their life is going really super well. And then you have other people who are not making good decisions, and you can see that that is falling apart for them and that's not going well. Well, great literature has the power to help us analyze the choices that these people, or dogs, or animals, what have you, are making. Okay. We also talked about, or we're going to talk about flaw, a character flaw. We all have them. And a flaw is a weakness, per se. Some of us may be quick to get angry. Some of us may not listen very well. Some of us may I don't know what, take risks or live in fear over things. Okay, that's a flaw. A flaw is anything that keeps us from fulfilling our destiny, our potential in life. Flaws we can change if we know them, and sometimes we don't know them, and it's through literature that we can look at ourselves and say, hey, you know what, that sounds a lot like me. I better change that. Or if you have a really good friend or a parent that can tell you also, hey, maybe we need to work on this. So flaw. If you look at flaw and you come over here, you can look at hamartia or hubris. We're going to focus right now on the hubris, Hubris. And what that is, you probably can't read my writing, but I'm going to tell you, it's called excessive pride or ego. Okay? So when a person is puffed up with ego and so much pride that they think that they're all that, you can pretty much count on the fact that they are going to make some decisions that will ultimately bring them down in some way and hurt other people perhaps. And that is called hubris under the character. Okay? And we're going to look at that within the novel Call of the Wild, and probably many other things we're going to read, to tell you the truth. Okay. So over here, obviously we have on the figurative language, we have imagery. We have imagery. Imagery is the senses. Authors use diction or word choice in order to convey an emotion, a way we can connect with them. Imagery. And it also can include your simile and your metaphor. Simile using like or as, and metaphor without. All right, and that's very important. And I want you to think about the word diction. Here, let me go ahead and mark that down here. Hopefully you can see that. Diction. Diction, again, is just another word that we use for word choice. Okay? So if we're using the word, and I'll show that in my writing in my next one, the word hunger and the word starvation, they both have to deal with being hungry. But each word has a little bit deeper or not deep meaning. If you're hungry and and you miss lunch, you're really not going to probably keel over and die because you missed your lunch. However, if you continue not to eat any of your meals, you are going to probably starve in a very serious way. So that would be a difference in word choice that the writer would use in order to convey what he's wanting or she's wanting to convey or to show. And it shows the tone, how the author feels about a piece, okay? Let's see. The theme over here, the theme is the central idea of what the work is about. You can have many themes, but you usually have one overarching theme with many sub-themes, okay? And that's a very important skill to be able to discern through the writing what the theme or themes are, and then apply them to the character analysis and to our own lives. And you will find that everything that we read, once again, we will be able to apply to our own lives and to the world that we live in. Through literature, we can learn to be better people. And because we can learn to be better people, we can impact our community, our family, our world as you grow up, okay? And lastly, right now, we're going to look at syntax. Syntax is the arrangement of words in a sentence for maximum effect. So it's the arrangement of words in a sentence for maximum effect based on the author's purpose for doing this. So when you think about sentence structure, you can have a complex sentence, you can have a compound sentence, and you can have a simple sentence. Sometimes your simple sentence may only have one or two words. You may have a sentence that just has one word, like silence, period. And authors do that for a maximum emotional effect and connection, okay? And that's what's called syntax, S-Y-N-T-A-X. And we're going to look at how to isolate certain sentences and what am I trying to say? And to analyze them so we can understand the author's meaning, or hopefully come to some maybe new idea, okay? Something new. And then I meant to write this down. I'm going to go ahead and put that under, let's see, diction. I'm going to put that right here under purpose. Okay, purpose. We need to always understand the purpose. What is the author trying to tell us? And we often look at the purpose through the cultural context. When the piece was written, what part of the country or continent it was written, what was going on politically, economically, or socially. That will help us determine the purpose, whether it's a novel, or whether it is a poem even, or whether it's a play, or even a nonfiction piece, right? So when we think about a newspaper article, pretty much those front pages are all about informing us of something that's going on, okay? So we always need to know with purpose. Okay, so this is where we are starting, and we will be adding to this. And as I am going to upload this particular sheet for you, you will need to print it out, and then you can start marking the things that we're talking about, and then begin to understand and analyze your reading, okay? Now, before we end, I wanted to show an example of syntax that I did the other day, so I'm going to recap this. Okay, syntax, it's the arrangement of words on paper in a sentence to convey meaning, okay? So, I had picked this sentence from a book that I'm actually reading with my high schoolers, but it's about the Vietnam War, and it's about the soldiers that are in combat and how they become very close and very tight-knit, like a family. And one of their soldiers was killed. Of course, it's war. And after they put him on the chopper to take back and to have a burial with his family, etc., after they did all that, the very next sentence that the author put down is, afterward, they burned the village, period. So that's a short, simple sentence, but it packs a huge amount of meaning. And when we're looking at diction, here is burned. I highlighted it. Burned. Because when we think of burning something, we think that nothing's going to be left. And so the commentary that we came up with yesterday is, how were the soldiers feeling when their friend was murdered in front of them in this war? And commentary is merely your opinion about what it is you're analyzing. And so we said in here They were angry. The soldiers were angry and wanted revenge. In addition, they wanted a sense of control. I'm going to circle that, and I'm actually going to highlight this again as we think about diction. Diction is word choice. Control. Because there was no control in the war environment. This shows the fear and uncertainty of their lives, period. This is commentary. And you're getting this depth of meaning from this one sentence. Afterward, they burned the village. The author could have just said, he may have omitted that, and then we wouldn't have understood anything really more about how war affects you psychologically, okay? But he put this sentence in here to show the anger and the revenge and the sense of no control they had, being at the mercy of the enemy. And by burning and not just setting fire, the author could have just said, let's just set fire. They just set fire to the village. That doesn't tell us that they burned it down. But here we can infer that by the word choice burned, they burned it down. That they were that hurt, that angry, and they did not know what else to do but burn the village down, and that's what they did. And so this is an example of syntax. I always bracket my sentences for syntax rather than highlight them, because that pulls it out for me, because I know that's a sentence that has extra meaning, and I can understand the characters better through a study of syntax. And then, of course, this is our commentary. So when we're writing our essays, oftentimes students will just say they were angry and wanted revenge, okay? And they just stop. Well, that doesn't really tell me the real reason. Revenge, it's actually not even that, because they burned the village down, and whether there were people in the village or not, they wanted to really show a sense of control, because there was none. So do you understand that? So we focused on revenge, but then because we thought a little deeper, we had to think, how did they feel? Well, why would you burn a village down after you saw your friend die in war? Well, they were angry and they wanted to find something, some sense of control in their environment, because in war, there is no control. You are at the mercy of the enemy. So, okay, so that concludes looking at our literary devices or conventions or techniques. The English language just loves to give us so many words to describe something. And along with a syntactical study of this one sentence. And from this one sentence, we actually could write a whole lot more, but we won't do that today, okay? All right, so this concludes, and I will follow up with another recording on how to annotate your novel, and we will go from there. So have a good weekend.